I'm going to come back to something that I will preach for as long as I'm in this business, that it all starts with knowing your target audience. So it's not about optimizing for those long tail queries, because you will drive yourself crazy trying to figure out what people are typing into LLMs. We don't have that visibility like we have with other tools that show us what people are typing into Google. We don't have that. We don't know that. There are so many language variations that even, the same two people searching for the same thing are going to type something different. It all comes back to understanding who is your target audience, what are their pain points, what motivates them, and what's going on in their environment.
Welcome to the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast. I'm your host, Krista Waddell, here to bridge the gap between SEO strategy and real-world business success by bringing you insights, stories, and conversations from the SEO community and beyond. Grab a coffee or your favorite tea, and let's dive into smarter SEO for your business.
Wow. So that really sounds like you just answered my next question. And it sounds like, if I heard you correctly, it's a framework basically breaking down those long queries. So can you walk us through this as a content performance framework, not just for social, but for a website?
So, not just knowing you're targeting small business owners and common pain points small business owners are facing. What else is going on in that industry? So, is there news around, small businesses struggling to get financial support, or are they falling behind in sales to large businesses? What else is going on in that environment that your target audience is surrounded by? Because the environmental influences are going to be some of the biggest things that drive a decision as well. That's also in the back of their mind. And I do have an article in Search Engine Land that I talked about this last year about how do you figure out personalization at scale. And again, it's not about figuring out those queries. It's about really digging into who you are talking to and how can you use data and statistics to find the norm, right? You can use data to find that, X percent of business owners feel this way, or X percent of business owners are struggling with this. And that's the sort of data that you can start to build your own profile.
Is that where the concept of a psychology lever comes in?
Yes. So those psychology levers, you've got to know who your target audience is and what levers you can pull. So for you, a great example, you mentioned you do a lot of the memorabilia stuff and, the memories. That feeling, that's an emotional trigger, is not losing those memories, not wanting to forget that. Thinking about children, your kids are going to grow up before you know it. And these moments that you have with them, the pictures that you take, right? That pulls a heartstring with somebody. And if you can communicate that in your words, but still highlight what your product is and that it's a sentimental gift, there's that co-occurring phrase, or, the semantic phrase that you might want in there is that, sentimental gift. But it's one thing to be like, oh, we offer sentimental gifts for moms, sentimental gifts of grandparents. You can stuff those keywords in all the time, but if you can lean into that emotional aspect. So for parents, if you're a parent or you do research, I'm not a parent, so I don't know that feeling myself, but I understand it because I can learn about it and think about how I would apply that or put myself in that position. And it's parents have a psychological need to want to love, to care, to protect, to, cherish their kids and their families. And so if you can do that with your words, you're going to get them to want to take an action. They're not necessarily thinking about these are fleeting moments with their kids and, their sports and things like that. So you can tug on that heartstring. So that's the lever for them. It's not going to be convenience necessarily, or even something about survival or life extension. Your memorabilia or these thoughtful gifts aren't going to necessarily save someone's life or protect them from harm. So that wouldn't be the message you want to communicate. You want to lean into that. I am going to miss and love my kids in this stage. How do I keep that? Or vice versa. If you're thinking about parents, grandparents, that's another, but it's a similar psychological lever. It's that these moments can be fleeting. How do you keep those memories alive, whether it's for kids, adults, a loved one, a significant other, all of those things. That's the love part that you can like tap into.
It's so important that we listen to our customers or find a way to listen to them because I've been very fortunate. Like I talk to my customers all the time. Like as a small business owner, I'm not working at scale. So I have, in-depth conversations with people over phone, email, or even text messages sometimes. And my whole business has been built on feedback from my customers. Like I'm not a naturally thoughtful person. I'm very naturally scatterbrained and I'll forget. I'm the last minute gift giver. So the products I create are not for me because they take planning and, some foresight and thoughtfulness. But my customers have been the ones to say, hey, I want to do this for this particular reason. Can you make me this thing? And I'm like, yeah, I can. And so I think there's just so much value in that. And then another search person, Heather Physiok, she was on the podcast a couple years ago and she introduced this idea to me of jobs theory. And every page has a job, every product has a job, everything you do on a page has a job. And so I feel like what you're sharing now, these psychological levers, that actually just takes jobs theory to another level, to this another layer of nuance on top of the who, the why, what are people doing? And I find it fascinating because you can dive so deep into who this person is and why your product benefits their life. You may not even know their first name, but you just know them so deeply because you're asking all of these questions and finding the answers to those questions.
Absolutely. And it really is. And it's about figuring out all the different ways that you can layer these elements in. So it's not just one psychological lever that you might be pulling. It's like, what are all the different ways that I can do this throughout a page? And it definitely is. It is. Everything does have a job. I love that. And I look at this as the art of what we all do. Like this is such a science-based industry that there's a formula and there's things that we know you have to do, but how you actually go about applying this, that is the art of what SEO and marketing really is. And that is the art, I think, that ultimately drives the results. I think the science gets us to where we need to be. And then the art is actually what brings it home and brings in those results, whether it's for our own businesses or the businesses that we work for or support.
Absolutely. And that's what has attracted me to SEO from the beginning has been the creative side of it. A lot of people hear SEO and they think technical, they're like, the approach that I have to Google Analytics or like that, just that visceral response I have to thinking about analytics. I feel like a lot of people have that with SEO, but I don't see SEO as this dry numbers-based thing. I see it as like this living and evolving opportunity to connect with people. So it's funny that you said that because that's how I see it too. I see it as like a creative expression, not just a technical mathematical equation, So
yeah.
But going back to taking TikTok concepts and applying them to, some of the more traditional SEO practices, what does a hook look like on a blog or product page or landing page?
Yeah, I think that's the fun of this art. Like it can be anything. It could be the hook might be, directly calling out your target audience in the first sentence of an article. If you're a mom looking to do this, small business owners, we know that X, Y, and Z is a pain in the butt. Here's how we can help you, or here's something you need to know that's going to make your life easier. So, I think it could be as simple as calling out the target audience as your hook. I think data plays a huge role in written content. And when I say data, I mean using statistics that exist out there on the web, in your research. So you can find a survey of parents, using your business as an example. And there's a stat that says like 72% of parents, they took more photos of their kids when they were younger, right? Like all of a sudden you're like, am I taking enough photos of my kids? Am I doing this? Am I part of that 72%? I need to keep going. I need to read this. So like, I think data and statistics is one of my go-tos and favorite forms. I think that goes back to my roots is like the data journalism and link building content that I spent so much time doing. But if you can give a data point or a statistic that either confirms somebody's beliefs or allows them to see themselves in a cohort or make them question themselves and where they fall, that's how you can hook them in. Our format for SEOs is very often like header, direct answer, context, header, direct answer, context. And like when we write for robots, it's super boring. Like the robots love it, the humans hate it. At least not yet. The robots aren't fully making decisions and making purchases. So we've got to think about how you can use that. And for me, it's data. I think data is a very strong hook, as well as just stating common misconceptions or beliefs.
That is such a great idea. That's such a creative way at looking at data points. Like I'm not very good at looking at things like that, but I can see that connection of the emotional, oh, where do I fall in this data set? And I want to add it. I'm making this master Shopify template based on social signals and GEO, like AI search signals. And so I'm going to add that like emotional data point to that list. Like that is so cool. That's like a really great idea. And I'm already like pinging with a bunch of different things because I would never thought about it like that.
It's even stronger if it can be first party data. So like if you're fortunate enough to be in a business or a company where you can get that information, whether it be from your clients, your customers, you can post on LinkedIn and run a poll. Like if you can get a data point that's truly yours, that is something that LLMs and AI really loves, is that proprietary statistic or data. But that's not feasible for everybody, especially small business owners. And there's nothing wrong with citing a source and leveraging an authoritative source to get your point across, especially if it's a source or a data point from someone who's not like, obviously not a direct competitor. So if you're talking about like small business owners or anything like that, like HubSpot has so much data that they publish and they put these studies out, and you can link to those things because you're not necessarily competing with them if you're not selling a CRM or the same tools and resources that they are, but they're an authority. So I think that's okay too, to do your research and leverage those things, but it is extra brownie points if you are in a situation where you can get that kind of thing yourself and show that you went and got that information yourself.
Is there a thought process or a checklist or something in our minds that we can go through to come up with good data points, or even to determine if this is something that would make our customers take another look?
Yeah, I think some of the questions I ask myself is, does this challenge a popular belief? Does everybody think everyone loves chocolate, but I've got a statistic that says 80% of people don't like chocolate. Like that's whoa, I thought everybody loved chocolate. I need to see what's going on here. So does it challenge a popular belief or conception? Same thought process. Does it align with a popular belief or conception that my target audience might have? Was I surprised to see this statistic? Is it interesting to see that people like this or people don't like this or aren't doing something? I'm trying to think of a way to articulate it because it's kind of one of those things where it's like the art in my mind where I'm like, I kind of just have learned some of it. But does the data point make me feel something? All fear. A data point isn't going to necessarily scare you, but can a data point highlight a vulnerability that you don't want to be a part of? So on my side of things and the content that I'm doing, SSL certificates in cybersecurity, that's super important for a website. If I can find a statistic that says in 2025, businesses lost an average of $1 billion or something of income from cybersecurity attacks, like that's a huge number. That scares me to think that my business could be part of that if I, got hacked, or are X% of people not protecting something. And then it's like, ooh, but it kind of comes back to, where do I see myself in that? So I'm constantly thinking of, does this data point make me feel something? And what is that feeling? And is that feeling something my target audience will resonate with to take an action?
And I know you said that like when people come to your talk at SEO Week, you're actually going to be providing some sort of workflow. Can you tell us what people will get from you when they attend your talk at SEO Week?
Yes. So I'm planning on offering a framework for people to go through and basically user journey map their content to their personas, but adding in that layer of like what are the psychological levers you can pull, and then kind of a menu of options of what does pulling those psychological levers look like in written content and examples of that. So like what does it look like to evoke fear in written content, and what are some of the ways that you can go and get that? What are some of the ways to evoke the feeling of wanting to love or protect your loved ones? How do you do that? And like spoiler alert, a lot of what I'm leaning on is data, and in written content, and statistics are such a powerful way to communicate a message that is in quotes, like that is the sort of thing that is going to set your content apart from being just a dry, plain old robot written for robots piece of content, and a piece of content that's clearly written with humans in mind and the person on the other side of the page.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're creating custom GPTs for this and you're creating frameworks. I'm super excited to see what you have because layering in those emotional triggers, I feel like that's just going to unlock a whole new level of opportunity for not only my business, but other people who grab it and other people who are listening right now. I think they're going to have lots of ahas and be able to just go sit with some of this information and brainstorm for themselves. So, Angela, thank you so much for everything that you shared today. Could you tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about who you work with and who could best identify as someone who could work with network solutions?
Yes, I'm always happy to connect with people on LinkedIn and share my thoughts and knowledge or resources to help people grow. So if anyone wants to ask any follow-up questions or chat, I truly love what I do. And I also love to be challenged, and I love to hear other people's perspectives on things. I think that's how we all learn. So that's super important for me. As far as network solutions, it's really if you're looking to start building your online presence, whether you're a small business owner, you want to launch your personal portfolio, or create a website or claim a website or a domain name just so that you have that online address and you can do with whatever you want with it in the future. You're investing in it. You can do that at networksolutions.com. And we do offer professional services as well. So if you are a small business owner who's looking to build an online presence, we do have a professional services team who will do an onboarding call with you, learn about your vision, and then they will actually build you a website using our website builder. You get hosting, your domain name, security packages, professional email, even SEO support and written content. So if you're looking for more of a boutique experience for somebody to handle it all for you, start to finish, we do offer those services. Or if you're a DIYer and you want to start building your online identity at your own pace, they can head to networksolutions.com and their domain name, because that's where it all begins.
Well, awesome. So, Angela, I'm so grateful that you made time for us today on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm happy I was able to chat with you. Thank you for having me today.
All right, guys. And for you on the other side of the headphones or speaker, I will catch you next time. Bye.